performance. Show that we can produce the best shows in the world because we give support.
You're not going to produce the best.
And the rest of the people will have to follow suit. We'll bring.
You don't have to produce the best show.
At home, that we shouldn't worry about the rest of the world.
In a sense.
Are you saying that we should go to Staten Island Community Advisory Board, Brooklyn Queens Community Advisory Board, Bronx Community Advisory Board, because they're right here in New York? And we should start with
what could happen there is that if you had a lawsuit against those 4 boards or against the government or the people in those boroughs, and the John Doe member of the boards, John Doe this, Mary Doe this, maybe there's some relief that you could obtain, but you don't even have a copy of the contract. You don't even know exactly what the contract says.
No,
record. You can
but
get that.
it's accepted that the process is in the system.
It's a contract.
No, it's a contract, but it's accepted. It is accepted
It is
because
not accepted.
they're negotiating in Los Angeles with the cable company.
They all have different
No, but for
New York
it's
City,
different.
not
I'm
Los
just talking about You're talking about a national system. You're talking
There
about
is no national cable. It's only local.
Well, don't talk about that. You're talking about a nation, and you're talking about
There is no national cable.
There is public access in Los Angeles, in Portland, Oregon, in Wichita, and in
And who is the body who grants
and there are various groups.
Who is the body who grants
It's not that point. The point is that it exists and is recognized, and the corporation, the cable companies, making a fortune from their charges, are allowing those systems to impinge upon their retained earnings, and it's happening in society after society. But that's very important. It doesn't happen anywhere else. There's nowhere else that happens except through tax or the private sector. An encumbrance on private. Suppose you went to General Motors and said, we want to set aside a fund for the people. They don't have that. They don't have it in steel. They don't have it in industry. They don't have it in anything, and they should.
Making our system, which is great already, much better, is a hell of a lot easier than trying to change 3,000 other systems.
No, you want to relate to the whole system. That's what I don't think you understand.
Because he's
So you're saying we should reform New York City first before we worry about the other?
That's all we can do.
Yes, and we ought to be working on
somebody
it.
We can do.
In order to make it better.
How are you
Josh
gonna
Walensky would mention this on WBAI. That would be the opening wedge. That cable producers may file a lawsuit for the city of New York and say, we demand to know the names of the community groups, and we don't even want a community group, a community cable TV advisory group, unless we vote for it. And since we didn't vote for it, it's probably illegal. Nobody here ever voted for a cable TV advisory board in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island, because we don't even know who they are. So these boards have been empowered by somebody.
How do you know there's no slush fund connected with those boards?
You are not allowed to talk about corruption and cable
Well, those
TV
are things that we
in the
can
same breath.
suggest.
You are not allowed to do that. Okay? All
Well,
right?
I may be wrong in that and everything, but I don't think I am.
In other words, if you can't have content, you don't have cable TV.
No, if you can't have unlimited contact for anything at all, content for anything at all you want, anything at all, libel, lotteries, fucking, everything, it's got to be totally open to everything or it's not open to
The
anything.
Romans
That's
had
a little
wonderful
unreasonable.
expression, reductio ad absurdum. It means
It's
reduction
not
from
reductive,
absurdum.
sir. You're reductive.
No one said that all cable TV should allow anything at any hour of the day or night. What people did say is, no anonymous community board of commissars shall determine that Josh Walensky can say this, but not that.
No.
Well, then let...
That Paul
Okay.
can say this, but he can't say that. And it might be libel. It might possibly be child pornography. The Reverend here is a dabbler in child pornography with little girls. How do I know that? Because the community board then said, he can't run his show about Jesus because we have said that it's about pornography. Now, who are you going to sue? But it's not about pornography, says the Reverend. That's not what my show's about. Never mind. We will decide what can go on and what can't go on.
If we can't make it perfect, should we not have it? I mean, if it can't be
Why do you deal in
perfectly...
absolutes? We're
What was
talking
that, the
about the
perfect's
First
the enemy of the
Amendment.
just?
Okay?
The perfect
We're
the enemy
talking
of
about
the
the people and democracy empowering or not empowering a community board. And an anonymous community board appointed above us by who knows who is not democracy. It is not democracy in action. It's not democracy in New York City. When a community board, who we're never allowed to address,
The community...
says you cannot say this show, you cannot put this show on, that show you can do, this show you can't do.
Which is the community board you're referring to? The board of directors at MNN, say?
I thought I said it 5 times.
Harold, I don't know what you
Read it
mean.
again.
Let me ask one question.
Outside
I
of
want
Manhattan,
to go
outside of
outside of
Manhattan,
Manhattan.
in every borough, there is a
I want
community
to go around the
so-called
room,
advisory
answer
board
this question.
for public
I'm not,
access.
Okay.
I'm not Josh
Josh-
Walensky. I'm not Josh Walensky. I'm Country Joe.
Okay.
I'm a colleague of Willie Nelson. And I want to do a program on country music,
Okay.
Where?
on
Where?
public access.
Where?
How, tell me in what way.
Where?
I want to do it in Manhattan. Now
That's the
tell
only
me
one that's
how ACAP, Association of Cable Access Producers, is relevant to me as a producer and can be relevant for me to make a better show and to put out a better product for my viewers. That's
Well, that's
what I
what
want
Carl's
to know.
talking about.
That's what I want
Well,
to know.
that's Carl.
The thing is
He
that
wants everyone
we
to talk
already
to
have
us.
shows on compression
Yeah, sure.
and uploading it to YouTube. We have shows on streaming.
Uh-huh.
We could have shows on Skype, using Skype and reducing your own costs that you have to incur. We can. I want a database for shows so that people around the world will have access to your show, and you put the link for your show where you've uploaded it to the YouTube type place. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do, but I want talent. I want books. I want ideas that you have. Like you think that maybe a show on shit kicking, some kind of country western thing would be great. You may have an idea. We'll put it on a database of ideas for other producers to look at. Put the name of the talent, the phone numbers, and you can generate these shows even if you choose not to do it yourself. So those are some of the things that I think we can do to help people out.
Would Josh Walensky like his music shows to be seen in 4 other boroughs and in the whole rest of the country, or only on
Just don't
MNN?
say that he cannot do that, because we know that.
Can't do it in the
Well,
4
but
Don't
boroughs.
say
that's
because
it's just another
we
angle
know
that,
that.
here, look at it this way. There's, what, is it 50 members of the city council plus the leader?
Yeah, 50, yeah.
Something
Yeah,
52,
50.
something like that. Well, there's a group of them, it's probably the vast majority that are in charge of these community boards.
Well, I don't know why you bring up community
Only
board.
because a
Why?
lawsuit
4 out
could
of 5
uncover what it
cable
is.
systems,
A
and you don't
lawsuit
know
could
why?
uncover that.
Oh, okay.
And the
That's
city
why.
council members may say, uh-oh, we're caught, let's make it a fair deal now. And maybe they could actually change as a result of a lawsuit. So a lawsuit could benefit and create a...
And
That's
did
a
George say
constructive
that
thing.
4
That's a
out of 5,
constructive-
the cable systems in Staten Island and Bronx are run by community boards or by a board of directors like
listening.
we are?
New York has 5 boroughs.
Yes,
Manhattan, MNN is the only one
that.
out of 5
What?
that says there's no community advisory board for cable.
Community.
You walk in and you hand your tape into a window and they run the tape. Not in Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island.
Well, what does that mean?
Every tape that you hand in the other boroughs must be checked and censored by an unknown community board, which you are not allowed to know who they
I
are.
think there should be a
Every single-
moratorium on the repetitious, broken record ideas. Because we heard that and we agree with you. We accept it.
Harold
We
doesn't
accept
agree
it.
with me.
Well,
Harold says it's
no,
okay
he agrees
because
with the fact
we
that...
do have public
Wait a minute,
access and
wait a
it's
minute.
funded.
He agrees with the fact that this exists.
I couldn't hear
Doesn't
you.
agree
What?
with the fact that it should exist. Because he is for democracy and he is for the people, just
Well-
like me. And to say that you are for the people, if you take, for example, Obama and Clinton, if they want to be elected, they have to take in consideration what is the common denominator of their constituency, which will decide, which will eventually go to the voting booth. And if they would, let's say, talk anti-Semitic language or a language which the public cannot understand, they will get nowhere. And we have to, I think, not impose ideas on other people, but we have to be in a very sophisticated manner aware of what the public wants that we would like to see the public to respond to. And not telling them what, but hearing them, and that is a very difficult thing. For example, some people emphasize economics. So, you know, everything that will be based on economic considerations, whether it's, you know, I have studied this Spitzer case. There are people who are seeing it purely from an economic, political angle. There are other people who see it from a psychologically sexual angle. And depending what we want, I think that the most important thing here is to determine what is it actually that we want first thing first, in a very concrete way, without heavy words and without great historical...
What we want is the freedom to reach the public.
Well,
You're going to give a
course.
talk in a church.
Of course we...
Please, you're going to give
It's
a church
freedom
talk.
of speech is the basis.
Okay, what if you had to submit every word to your speech in advance to a community group who you are not allowed to know
But
who
you are
they are?
talking about a certain tyrannical system that you are involved in.
4 out of 5 boroughs are
has to be-
tyrannical? Can I
This
quote you on
tyrannical
that?
system is exactly the extreme pole against Harold's position. He doesn't want dictatorship. He wants
We already
democracy.
have
He
it
wants
before
freedom
Harold.
of speech.
We
Right?
already have it.
Yeah, widely. Not only that, but free. No, I'm trying to find.
What is it? Yeah. What are you trying to find?
We got an organization called Access and Cable Access. We're involved with cable access. So I'm trying to find out what there is about it that is unique in terms of the zeitgeist.
But you,
What's different?
You've already
And I
listed
keep
that.
saying it, and nobody pays attention
But
to
no,
it.
we understand.
I don't
We
think
accept
people
it.
do.
We accept it.
You accept.
That's a given that it's,
No.
it's free.
But then that
and
would
it's
be
unique.
Yeah.
the uniqueness of it would be the basis of our papers about what we are.
Let's have
That would
one
be
section
num-
of a website that develops
Not a
what
section.
we are.
No.
And let's have other
But
sections
the
of the website.
papers would sing the praises of the unique quality of this thing that exists within the society.
How often do you have to update that paper?
No,
Because I'm
it's
looking at databases that need to be updated every day by every producer in the country. That is a living website where people will find what they're looking for. What we need to do with yours is to have the principles, and that's sort of like a static thing, that once we have these principles, we would like to encourage communities to do something about it. In the 4 boroughs, I already have a strategy. I think we could accomplish that in the 4 boroughs.
Well,
So,
you know,
so we
it's-
have all of our,
well,
what we've
That
done
is a
here.
positive step.
Yeah.
Now that's positive.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we've all been talking about, basically.
Well, that's what I'm thinking of, and I think that this has really got huge implications because it's so unique. This thing about the breaking out of the mold between private and public sector only. Something that is the people. And it's unique. And we don't seem to understand that. And it's all economics and everything. And the way in which we cast all of our thinking about society is all done within a certain paradigm. And this is something that offers an alternative to that in the name of the people, and it makes it possible for them. And they don't have to be stars. We don't have to be trying to be stars in order to get eyeballs for advertising agencies. We don't have to be stars
We
like
want
that.
the public
Even,
to see
you know,
our
if I may,
shows.
there was, what's her name, Dee Halleck. She used to have access to Chiron, and she could make it all fancy like ABC or something, or NBC. And she deliberately made it so that she rolled it on a piece of paper so that the citizens would not be intimidated by the overly powerful input of the profession. You want to make it so that the people have an ability to function, just come down and function, and they don't have to be, it's democracy,
In the
not
same way that cable
market.
challenged the networks. we should be able to challenge the networks also. Cable challenged the networks. They came out with strong shows, and they brought the people over into cable, away from the networks.
That's
away,
big cable. That's still
Yeah.
operating.
Well,
That's
but
still
we have
operating.
the opportunity of creating a network here, and drawing a lot of people into the shows that we could help the people put
Into
on.
the environment, not the shows.
Well,
The environment. If I may,
Yeah.
it's not the shows, and it's not the stars or the people. It's the environment and the context within which it's happening.
A specific producer
That's what's
is
important.
not as much worried about the environment as what
Yeah, I know it's
we
not
were
the
today.
specific producers aren't usually
Right.
interested in any
But those are
principles
the
that have to do
people
with the
in part that
organization.
we want to be a member. We want we want the producers of the nation to look to us for support. You're giving one kind of support, which is protecting their organization and their right to.
Or getting it established. They don't have an organization. There is no producers
Well,
organization.
they have 3,000.
And you've got no principles to
Agreed.
repair to.
Your interest is in protecting and
No, and
enhancing
establishing.
and
And establishing a unique
And I'm
entity
saying
within
that
a
will
unique
take a long
context,
time.
and don't compare it to the television, don't compare it to the telephone, don't compare it to anything else except this moment
Your
that
system
happened.
took 40 some odd years, 40 years to create the hell that it's in. And we're not
I'm
gonna-
what system?
By the way, 1776 was
Yeah.
just as difficult. I
Yeah,
gotta
so-
go.
so it-
Yeah,
it-
great
over
series on
40
HBO
years it
about
took
John Adams. Good to
to
see you.
create this
Take
mess.
the paper. You got it?
Yes.
David, okay.
And we're not going to change it overnight, but we can start helping producers pretty quickly in the things that will help them put on shows.
Well,
Are you saying that when the public goes to watch cable TV, they go to watch a specific show?
If they-
Or do they say, I think I'll go into the public access environment? It
I
doesn't matter what the
I
show
think if
is.
someone wants information on Reverend Wright right now, that if they could come to our website and find 32 different shows properly described with references to other shows, they would do that. I think that we can help our producers get an
So we need
audience.
First Amendment, first of all.
Well,
We need to
we
allow
don't.
the producers
We
to put
don't,
on what
because
they want to put on.
we don't, because YouTube allows most of these
YouTube
shows
is
to
not
go on.
public access.
Well, it's not shows
controlled by the
created
city of New
anywhere
York.
on public access, even if they're not run. Even if they're censored out, those shows can still be in our system.
And there's a nice
They're not.
synergy.
Yeah, let her talk. Go ahead, talk.
There's
talk.
a nice synergy between the internet and cable
Yeah,
television.
yeah,
potentially.
absolutely.
Yeah, there is. And what about you? You talk. John, you've been involved in the networks for a long time. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Maybe you don't. But what do you think?
I can propose to you an avenue to solve your problems.
No.
I hear a lot of frustration here. I hear no solutions. I have a possible avenue to your problems.
Talk up to give the mic.
This
Please.
tape is stopped anyway, there's no tape in it.
No, it's not. It's going.
No.
It's recording there. It's recording there. It's recording.
And
It's
the
all. We
stream-
haven't missed a sterling word.
Now, if I'm
Every
interrupted,
word.
I'm going to propose to you a simple mechanism on how you can solve your problem. But if I'm going to be interrupted, I'm going to stop talking.
Okay.
There are all sorts of benefits, attributes, and things that you can create. That's not the problem. The problem is creating a mechanism that will solve your problem. Now, other bodies, other groups have had similar problems, and they've solved them. For example, recently, you've all read in the paper 2 months ago, the writers had a long, arduous strike. It was very painful for everyone. But in the end, they were able to achieve some of their demands. Now, I'm going to give you a possibility of similarly creating a mechanism that will solve your problems. I'm not saying solve all your problems, but a way to solve your problems. You have to follow the concepts that these other groups have initiated to solve their problems. Corporations have found a way to solve their problems. Unions have found a way to solve their problems. governmental bodies have found a way to solve their problems. They use a mechanism, a machinery, to solve their problems. You have to create that machinery which will solve your problem. The machinery is simply a tool, like a hammer, a screwdriver, a saw. It's nothing odious. It's something that's used to perform a function. And I'm going to give you that machinery. Because right now, you've just been going around in circles. We've been having a nice little gab fest for 90 minutes, going nowhere. Each individual has reiterated over and over and over again their frustration. With no solution, no suggestions on how to solve that problem. The first thing you have to do is to start. It's very simple. In a preceding meeting, I asked the group that I was with, how do you build a boat? They couldn't answer me. There are a lot of ways to build a boat. You can draw up a schematic plan. You can take a piece of wood and nail it together with another piece of wood. You can take a log and float it on the river. There are a lot of ways to build a boat. But the first way to build a boat is to start. You must start. So you must start to build a machinery, a mechanism that will foster your concepts, your problems, and deals with them methodically, concretely, logically, and channel them into a procedure that will solve your problems. You don't have this right now. Each person here is interrupting someone else, so that no person has a chance to finish his thought. It's one of the reasons I just said, if you interrupt me, I'll stop talking. I don't want that.
Were you going to talk a half an hour or an hour? How long?
I'm going to finish.
Lay it out, get to the point. Robert's rules.
I'm going to finish.
The way the system is
I'm going to
organized.
finish.
itself.
Harold, one more word and I'll stop talking.
Okay.
Allow him to finish.
In 30 seconds, I'll give you the mechanism.
This is not a pyramid scheme, is it?
Each of these bodies have built a governing rules of law. Government has laws, clubs, organizations have rules and regulations. What you need here are bylaws where you can formulate your discussions and come to an understanding. You don't have this right now. Everybody's just talking, and every meeting you have rehashes the same thing.
No, it doesn't.
Thomas mentioned earlier, what you need here is the secretary to take down these minutes of what's
We're recording it.
talked.
It's better that way.
If you don't have that, you rehash everything over and over again because you have no record of what was discussed. So every time you meet, you discuss the same thing again that you discussed the last time. But if you have minutes, you can say, hey, we discussed that, and we talked about it, and this is how we solved it. That's an obvious solution. And the way to get a secretary is to build a governing body. You have a chairman, assistant chairman, treasurer, a secretary, blah, blah, blah.
Not that.
You formulate a governing body. And I had done that,
Yeah.
but when we had a meeting, the three people that were there couldn't come to a conclusion of how to start.
No, we're just getting.
All you've got to do is start
Okay, good.
and do it. And that's
And-
all I have to say.
That's great, John. And the stuff you permitted, you submitted, he really put together a thing with bylaws and everything. It's really good, and I think it's going to be useful. What we have to figure out is, if I may, we don't mimic the corporations or the companies that are there.
What's wrong?
We don't-
What's wrong,
We
Harold?
don't. No, we don't have to mimic them because what we're talking
What's
about.
wrong? If you have a good mentor, a good thing to emulate, Why not copy it?
No, you don't
Why do
mimic.
why do
You don't
want-
mimic the systems that are there because you've got something unique. You want to find what's
You
unique.
can alter your
No, no, you
machinery.
don't see it. It's not something new, John. We're not trying to mimic ABC or any
I'm not saying
General
to
Motors
mimic that.
or any other
I said,
union thing
but
or
if
something.
something works, why destroy it?
It's working. It's working. We decided we wanted to talk about it informally. We had 3 people. We now got 9 or 10. We're going to have 100,
Look, I
and
gotta
we're going
cut
to
in.
grow
I
because
gotta
we got
cut
a
in,
unique
hold
idea.
this. John said writer's strike, and he said it was successful.
That's right.
Of course, what he left out was more important than what he said. I take the writer's strike, and guess where the main body of the complaint was against? None other than home box office. And do you know what the sign said over and over again? Fight corporate greed, meaning Time Warner, meaning the people who control public access cable TV. Every single sign
They
said
don't
fight
control
Time
it. They don't
Warner's
control
cable
Wait a
greed,
minute. They do not.
corporate greed.
If I may, we're just talking. We're not saying, Mr. Chairman, an amendment
Every
and a thing and all that
sign
bullshit.
said fight corporate greed of Time Warner.
Okay, but now listen to me for a
Okay.
minute. That's what the corporation's in the place for. They accumulate capital. They accumulate profits. They get profits, and they can do feasibility studies, make for growth, hire people, set up committees, do all kinds of things like that, operate under Robert's rules, proxy fights, all the rest of that. We don't have to mimic that at this stage because we're trying to get at what are the principles. What is it that's the principle? Unique to public access. Not mimicking ABC or mimicking General Motors or mimicking the federal government. We want to set up something that is unique. It's uniquely there.
Corporate greed.
And all that money
Let's be
that the
corporate
Time,
greed,
listen,
like
all
Time
that
Warner.
money that Time
Yes.
Warner is building up, billions of dollars by charging you for having a cable service that they can bill you for and
Right.
turn off. They got billions of dollars in their coffer. In the normal operation, they could do whatever they fucking want with all of that. Those corporations can do whatever they want. Fuck the money. There's nothing to... Now they've accepted, listen, they've accepted out of a magic, call it that, moment in the evolution of the zeitgeist, in the evolution of human affairs, a change in the thing where there's going to be a voice for the people. Not the corporations, not the politicals. That's all we hear is political corporations. That's all it is. There's for the people, and it is to a considerable degree, not perfect, but it is recognized under the operating procedures of this society, including the people who are responsible for enforcing the law and making it there, by the corporations. They are going to give money that they make and they should have access to, and they're going to give it to an organizational structure across the country, open, who has a mission, let me finish, has the mission of providing access to the people on a level playing field for the people. Not for the stars, but for the people. That's an important principle.
For the 1,000th goddamn time, there is no such thing as national public access. There never was, there never will
We've
be.
got something wonderful
There
here.
is nothing national or even statewide about public
That doesn't
access.
detract from the fact
It's
that
a
Time Warner is
It's a
answering to
local
the call
phenomenon.
from the local
It has
phenomenon.
nothing to do with zeitgeist.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with spirituality.
Now,
It has to do with campaign contributions to the ever-corrupt City Council of New York City.
Well, okay, keep it
That's
that way
what
if
it
you
has
want,
to do
George.
with,
But the
okay?
point is that you've got a thing where, unlike ABC, ABC did not have to pay any attention to what the people thought other than giving them a product and selling them products and things like that. They could do whatever they wanted with their earnings. They could hire him as a director. They could hire people. They got the market discipline to keep everybody in
It's
order.
an outright
Get the
lie.
truth. No, but they could.
Stop! It's a lie.
That's the way the
Stop.
private sector works. That's the way the
Stop.
private sector works.
You are lying.
I'd like to put it over here.
Yeah, let him put it over.
I'm just putting it over here because
Yes,
I
Mr.
think-
President.
I think you guys are sort of saying different things. And they're both reasonable things to say. I think Harold is making a general positive statement, somewhat detached from particulars. And, you know, he's every right to feel positive about it. And he's making kind of general idea statement. And it's okay for him to be enthusiastic about a certain general idea. You're talking about all kinds of real facts and realities. And I don't think, there are just two levels of discussion that are floating on different waves, in my opinion. You know,
Yeah, well, public access is not a general thing. It's the city of New York.
He can make a...
Yeah, we don't understand that, George.
Okay.
He can make,
Yeah.
this gentleman here, this guy, he can formulate, you know, like a philosophical type idea. A person has the right to do that. And the idea, and, you know, it's like an ideal statement, or however you want to look at it. It's fair enough for him to do it, and it's like a statement of ideology that he's articulating. It's sort of individual and expressing his...
There's no philosophy in the
interest
Department of Franchises of the city of New York.
Shush.
Well, he can
There's no zeitgeist.
No, the zeitgeist had nothing to do with that.
Okay,
It's just the spirit of
it's
the
a
age.
contract, as Carl Pearson says.
Well, these are different
Okay.
things. I think you're just talking about, to me, you're just
Details.
talking about on
Details.
somewhat different levels.
Yeah, that's
Of
just a
course.
detail. It's just the law that governs all public access.
No, it doesn't, because there
But it's
is...
simply a detail.
No, it
Now,
isn't.
in 1920,
It
in 1920, the Secretary of Commerce of the United States set the law, and it's still in existence, for non-cable TV, because there was no cable TV in 1920.
That's
Of
right.
course, none of you know who the Secretary
There
of
wasn't
Commerce
even any
was,
television.
but he established a very important principle, in this case for radio, but it went into television. Does anyone happen to know who the Secretary of Commerce was in 1920?
I have
Who
no
established
idea.
the principle of federal control? His name was Herbert Hoover.
I was going to say Hoover.
Now, Mr. Hoover made up a very careful law, which is still in existence and accepted practice. It later became called the Federal Communications Commission.
Oh.
And the corporations under it have a license to broadcast in the public interest. Okay? Licenses have been revoked and will continue to be revoked for not broadcasting in the public interest.
Hardly ever.
Now, that's national, okay? And he also said a very important principle. There is to be no local control whatsoever over the public airwaves, because the airwaves go interstate. And since they go interstate, no mayor, no governor has any control whatsoever over radio stations, later television stations. However, public access is totally different. Try to get this through your heads. There is no such thing as an FCC for public access. There's no such thing as a Washington Commission. There is no such thing as a state commission,
What does
really,
that matter?
on public access. There are local commissions, and every public access is different in every city, in every township in the United States that has the legal right to grant such a franchise. And as Carl Pearson points out, it's a franchise. It's a contract, as he puts it. Okay? So it's different everywhere. And there is no right in anyone except Manhattan to put on a show that the government does not approve of.
Well, you're coming back to that always,
Okay?
George.
So
but
if you can't say what you want to say, what good is public access?
Well, you're coming back to
In
your...
over 1,999 cable systems, there really is no public
Okay, there
access.
isn't. There's no point in it. It's all
Okay,
corrupt
so
because
you
we don't...
can't do public access in most of the United States.
Well, not according to your
So,
principle.
you know what?
Absolutely.
Let's see if we can change that.
Well, you want to have...
Let's got armed with a sword called votes and called the ability to put on public access shows in Manhattan. And let's point this out, that it doesn't exist any place outside of Manhattan.
Okay.
In such places as Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island, where the Reverend would not be allowed to say anything against Jesus if someone didn't like it, much less Dallas, where nothing is allowed on Dallas cable that blasphemes the holy name of Jesus.
Okay, you're making a point on the absolutist thing about absolute freedom.
There's
to
no
be expressed.
absolute.
First
I
and
never
foremost,
said
there's a lot of...
absolute.
Okay, not absolute,
That's
but...
your stupid
Okay,
word.
okay,
I
but
never
more
said
liberal
absolute.
standards of what
I
really
said
allowed.
what
and
the
all
New
that.
York Times said about me in 1981.
Okay.
Let the subscribers decide.
Okay,
And that's what the
that's
New
a
York
thing we
Times
make.
said in its famous editorial. We don't approve of Ugly George.
Yeah, well, you've got
But
that.
just
as a
like
thing.
Voltaire, will defend to the death his right to do it.
Yeah.
And the only persons that should decide are the subscribers who are paying
Let
to
the
watch
market run.
public access. I think that principle still holds
Okay,
from
well-
June 1981 till now.
Okay, you
Let
think
the
that-
subscribers decide.
But you would be a Schumpeter guy or something, let the
I think
market
George
go.
has given
and-
some very good background information.
Absolutely, I can agree with
very
you.
valuable.
Absolutely, I like having
Appreciate it.
standards. I got nothing. I don't want to have restrictions.
What I don't
there.
understand is why he doesn't investigate a way to solve his problem.
Because that's what
I have a
by
method to do that.
Robert's rules.
But you won't. What? Forget about Robert's rules.
Oh.
What is this obsession with Robert's rules? that
Well,
you
what,
have?
what is it that you bylaws? We set up bylaws. We set up things and
I
methods
said
for
set up
proxy
the
fights. Or what?
machinery that
What?
will channel methodology to deal with your problems. So it's not helter-skelter. What you've been doing
It's not
for the last
helter
2
skelter.
hours
There's a lot of
is
thinking
talk
going
past
on. It's
each
called
other.
thinking.
To
You
me,
just vented
John,
your
is
frustrations, but you're
suggesting
not going
it's
anywhere.
thinking.
structure.
We're making great
Carl
progress,
is
John.
Suggesting relevance. To me, those are the bottom words.
Well, I could submit something in a larger sense. Zeitgeist, he doesn't like the term spirit, the thing and everything. But I know that the corporations are able, and maybe it's because I have a different take on things and I see it in a larger context. Because it means that you're giving the means, again, to repeat, you're giving the means a reasonable playing field with the people to the means of communication. I think that could really be fleshed out and really vouchsafed and in our writings and so forth, the uniqueness of that. And you've done it in a way where you've bypassed the market. Okay? That's not a small matter. You've made it available to the citizen to communicate in a way where it is not a market thing. It's not a material thing. It's not a commodity thing. That's really important to make that distinction because the rest of the economy is all still struck, and the rest of the thinking of the planet is still predicated on the idea you've got either two things. You've got the corporate ability to marshal resources and so forth, and they can do what they want, and you have the public restraint on them called the laws and the legal system to do it. Private sector, public sector, etc. There's a new thing with the people emerging. That's the thing that's unique. And if we got the means of communication might actually become a model for the oil industry. The oil industry has no obligation except what can be wrung out of them by the public sector, private sector dialectic. The steel industry didn't have to do that. None of the industries and the way in which the economy developed of the planet. So you got a thing where the assets are all owned by a tiny group of people. We're all like serfs on a feudal estate. They own all the assets. They keep accumulating capital. They've got the technology. They've got the accumulation of the capital. It all goes to them, and they have no responsibility except what can be wrung out of them politically by a political cut. Now, there's a thing where there's one little thing that's happened in the realm of communication where we are that is so unique that these corporations are encumbered in their ability to do whatever they want with their gotten gains, ill or otherwise, to do what they want, as is the case in the private sector, the corporatocracy, if you want. They can do whatever they want, and all they have to answer to is market demand or Schumpeter or something like that. Everything's going to be solved that way. They're presenting it. They don't present it as anything else. So then, it could be that if we get the recognition that there be encumbrances and the means of communication can be closer to the people in a real sense, not a sham thing, a real sense, it could finally transmogrify maybe to where it will also be relevant in those other aspects of the world economy that is called the means of production. The means of production are all held in the hands of plutocrats, as it always has been. It's an unjust world that we've inherited out of history. We don't want to mimic the procedures by which that unjust world. We do not have a vision relevant to empowering the people and having something for the people And this is one little example coming out of history that we should not let be obviated by such small arguments about there's some places where it's operating badly by people and people are corrupt and they won't let Ugly George on to show naked ladies. And he's all upset because of that. That's what I'm trying to say. That's a larger issue. It's a way to address the larger issues that confront mankind other than just political.
We're not going to allow John Steinmetz on.
Yes,
we're not going to allow him on. No. That's a small argument.
You've got to hang up
You
on
can
that,
say anything
George.
you want.
You got to hang up on that, and you can't think big. You got to think big. You got to think big. Access, public access is where the public access is.
Without the First Amendment.
You know, it does. It's going to vouchsafe.
Say what you want to say isn't worth anything at all.
If this is free speech, I would like to say something.
Please.
Could I say something after you think? Quite the room over.
Besides being...
Who's chairing this event?
No one. But no one, and that's the problem.
I know, John. I know. Your time's coming.
Besides being a minister of religion, humanistic religion,
Which is
rational,
irrelevant.
naturalistic, and no crazy, God and stuff like that. I'm also quite a seasoned organizational executive, and I have seen quite a few organizations flourish and quite a few organizations just disintegrate. And if we want to be a successful organization, which we are, and keep in mind both facts. One, that we want to be democratic and pro-people, and at the same time that there are limitations on free speech, so that we have a very, very difficult cause to follow through. So what can we do? I think that the first thing that we can do is to encourage producers to produce programs that will appeal to the people in that democratic, pro-people sense. See, as far as the institutional structure of our little organization here is concerned, there is a certain flavor. There's an organization that is socialistic. There's an organization that is anarchistic. There's a organization that is authoritarian. There's an organization that consists of neurotic and sociopaths who are also, having bylaws and the whole organization structure and doing things. Being basically humanistically oriented, and I don't call myself a humanist, I call myself an aspiring humanist because I didn't make the grade. But I think that being humanistic is the closest thing to what we are doing, even if we should not use the word. Maybe some people don't like the word, see? But basically this is what we are trying to do, that namely to act in terms of the highest dedication to the interest of humanity, of people,
Yes.
of society.
We have an
Do
obligation
you have the
to
right
that.
to say that and to do that?
I have the right to do it.
No, you don't. The Staten Island
Wait a
Community
minute,
Board
I
said
have
you
the
can't
right
say
to
that.
say
You made your
here.
point.
I'm not talking now about all the Hitlers in this world who try to even kill the humanist concept.
Or rip
Right?
off more
If
profit.
I will be negative, I will get nowhere. I have to be positive, and I think we have to be positive. And that's why I said we must somehow figure out what would be the real common denominator that will connect us with the people.
The means of communication.
It's a public relations issue, it's an ethical issue, it's a social issue, and it is a professional, how should I say, TV issue.
So are you saying the show should be appealing and fresh?
Not appealing.
Not
It
appealing.
should, well, appealing. Of course, it has to be appealing. If it's
Yeah.
not appealing, then if it's
Okay.
Well, if I may, Joseph, if it's really democratic and you've got the kazoo band and there's an audience of 12, there's a place for it. You don't have to be accommodating the idea of mass numbers and that marketing thing. You got stuff for people, the local basketball team, something like it's got a small audience. That's okay, or even it's very amateurish. Did I say that to you? Dee Halleck actually had a thing which she did deliberately, didn't use the chyron to make it look fancy. She used the thing to encourage the people who are so beaten down. They're so beaten down by the professionals and by the hustlers and all that. They're so, they don't, oh, nobody would want to hear anything that my thinking. You got to encourage that among the people, that they can communicate and have a way for they can do it free. And here's a way that it's doing. That's the thing. They can't put up $500 to do it. They haven't got the boxy or anything. But you can. So it's not just the stars or making it. You're going to have a hard time competing with public television and the network, what they can do and the resources they have and everything in terms of making something really fancy dancy. But you got to have it democratic.
Listen, please, democratic.
Well, you got to get more capacity. We can get 12 channels out of those 4 we have at MNN now.
We can do to help producers, independent producers, to so to say function on a higher level or better or in any way be supported.
Well, I think we ought to get
I mean, this is one of the.
Well, I think what we ought to do is get the Association of Cable Access Producers as a real vanguard organization on the planet. Okay. That's what I think. And we ought to get the operating principles that tie into the most complete liberating capability of the greatest number of people by taking a large view, and doing, and that's what we're groping toward doing now. Not getting hung up on the details. Groping toward the large view.
Harold, how do you practically suggest to do that?
Well, we're talking about
Well,
it.
how?
First of all, get the ideas. Does what we do have anything to do with the operation of the planet? Can we affect the superstructure of the operation of the planet? Can we affect the larger political process rather than just be subjected to it? I mean, these kind of things. Can we have an influence? I said before, the means of communication that is available to the citizens free, expanding democracy, the means of communication could lead to a thing which will lead to the means of production. The means of production, the whole operation of the society, which is held by a few people. Right? We just live in a slave system. It's a few people that own everything. The masses are just like serfs on an estate. We do not have a just system. The world needs it. Our intellectuals, our political, they're not coming up with a vision. They're not coming up with, and so it ties into the possibility of a vision statement for the planet.
He wittingly gave the answer.
Yeah.
And it's Dan Coughlin's answer. On a show that we recently taped, Dan Coughlin came up with such a brilliant statement, I fainted. He said, you know, there are some 700 channels on cable TV now.
That's right.
And he was being kind of facetious, but he was making a point. And he says, and yes, and they're all controlled by 2 corporations. He made it a little sarcastically, but that's basically what he was talking about.
Yeah, it's all like a feudal state.
So diversity means Time Warner's diversity. Cablevision's diversity.
No, public.
Not your diversity.
No, but the monies that are wrung out of Time Warner for public access are not done to
mean, and he specifically exempted public access. He said there's only 4 public access channels, but there's 350 Cablevision channels and 350 Time Warner channels. So that's what he was talking about. Now, implicit in all of this is a relatively silly thing called the First Amendment. Meaning that if the public access channels are going to be pale imitations of 350 other channels,
no, they should
and
be
700 channels, they're not really public access. So this is where the First Amendment comes in. If Paul wants to say something, or the Reverend David, or Carl wants to say something, they should have the right to say it, to be different, to be diverse, and give their opinion to the people who will then choose whether they want to watch it or not.
And also the people
The
should have
First
the right to
Amendment
have...
is the very First Amendment.
And the people should have the right to have that available to them and there is a system there that is able to be done at no cost.
Only Manhattan Island.
Except, and
only Manhattan
you can't,
Island.
No, it's not only Manhattan Island.
I just told you it doesn't exist in Bronx.
No, because that's because all the corruption, the system in Los Angeles, the system in Portland is corrupt. They're all corrupt. Everything's corrupt.
And are you saying
it's
Bronx,
not
Brooklyn,
true.
Queens,
No,
Staten
but there are
Island?
standards, and principle,
Whose standards?
Well,
Whose standards?
well, you've got cable systems around. You've got public access.
We're talking New York City.
No, I'm not talking New York City. I'm thinking
Oh,
nationally.
we're
We
not
want to reach
talking
out
New York
nationally,
City.
and you're going to reach out nationally, and you're going to. They got to.
Public access
in
is the
San
city of New
Francisco-
York and not the
I'm
city
not
of
just
San
talking New
Francisco.
York. You're talking in San Francisco. They have a public access, and the cable company serving that, gets money to that entity in order to have it
It's
open.
not under the control of San Francisco.
It's
Cable.
not. Why do you talk apples
It
and
is under the
oranges, George?
control of New York City.
Mm.
So if 4 out of the 5 boroughs say there's access but there's no access, then there is no access.
Well, he keeps
Funding
harping
or
on
no
that.
funding.
No, but the corporations are reacting to this thing that's become existed and part of the system where they take
There's
money.
no system. There's Manhattan Island. There's New York City. There is no national system. There is no zeitgeist. There is no paradigm. There is New York City, and only New York City. Okay? There is no philosophy here.
Well,
There is no Schumpeter. Okay?
Schumpeter-
There is the city of New York.
Mhm.
All
Well,
right?
that's the way you want to see it. That's your hobby horse.
My
the,
hobby horse.
But the system in California
What
is
your
reactive.
person calls a
Wait a minute.
contract
But there's a
is
contract
made
in
by the
California.
city of New York.
Wait a
only.
And the city of San Francisco, and the city
That
of Los
is not
Angeles, and the city of
controlling-
Portland.
That has nothing to do with M&M.
No, it doesn't have
or
anything
New
to do.
York
I wasn't
City.
bringing him in.
It has nothing to do with it.
But they react to the
Okay.
same.
It has nothing whatsoever to do with it.
The
They do not
corporation,
react to it.
George, the corporation.
They do not react to it because
I'm
nowhere
not talking
else,
about M&M.
nowhere
Nothing to do
else,
with M&M.
nowhere else in no other franchise in the United States is there any clause that says the cable system and the government shall not interfere with the content of public
Well,
access.
you can't. But
That's only the island of Manhattan and nowhere else.
okay, Manhattan's only law. You saying that? I don't agree with you. I'm
You
saying
don't
that.
agree with me, it's in every single franchise.
Well, you gotta
You
hang up.
cannot say anything that
Get
blasphemes the
between the
holy
two of
name
them.
of
We've
Jesus.
got a new
If you guys
insight.
will stop arguing.
New
I
insight.
hate to be
New
insulted.
insight. New
That's
insight.
outrageous. I shouldn't go that. But you
Sit
guys
here.
are fussing and the people
Sit
are
here.
leaving.
Well, let's leave.
Okay.
The whole idea here is to establish a common
Sit here.
denominator.
You'll see better from the camera. You can't see you there. You're
Doesn't
behind the
matter.
wall. Okay, talk.
The fact of the matter is to establish a common denominator among members. What you want to do is to pass out a piece of paper and have everyone put down what they feel, what do they need to do their job better, and then at the next meeting address those concerns. That is the reason why people will continue to come back to ACAP. Not about macro, we're not about macro. This is a micro universe here in Manhattan, so we're going to deal in micro. But we have a group, an organization here that needs to be cohesive. Pass around a piece of paper. Get the ideas of the rest of the group and address that in the next meeting. People will be happy to come back. Otherwise, people are going to leave tonight and not come back.
All right, we'll
That's
see.
what I'm saying.
All right,
Let's
you
see
know
that,
what call
baby.
person is going to hand around next time? A petition to file suit. Okay?
Put that down
With
on
a
the
contract
paper.
that says we must know the names of the appointed community
Do it make
groups in the
sense?
outer boroughs.
I'd like.
Well, why are we doing
Laura's
this?
going to pass that
Why
out.
are people coming back into the room
Everybody's going to
with a
sign it.
pencil and
I
a
would be the
paper
first to sign.
and writing
Yeah,
down
yes.
what they feel
But one
will
thing-
help them
Term
do
limits
their job
first.
better?
And the
Okay, fine. I'm all in our business. Got great ideas. and
Bickering.
But
Thank you.
I do want to address you quietly, George,
Yeah.
because in Los Angeles you have a cable company.
Los Angeles is
Shut
nothing to do
up!
with
Shut
the
up!
Solutions.
I don't care if it has anything to do with MNN. It's in Los Angeles, they have theirs. Portland, they have theirs. They got the cable company, they got Time Warner, and that group that organizes that access facility, are negotiating with Time Warner Company for money to make them operate, and Time Warner Company is responding to their obligation to negotiate and give the money.
And
That's
are
all.
you setting up a
That's all.
community group to censor the cable
that's
channel?
I don't care about. I'm
Oh,
not
you don't
talking.
care.
I do care, of course, but I don't think that that's the.
What good is it
That's
to
not
have
the
public
issue.
access if the corporation controls?
Well, you're being an
content?
absolutist on First Amendment.
That's an absolute.
No, the fact that exists is unique.
Yeah, what
The
happens
fact
if
that the Time Warner
in
Company
Portland what happens if you have 350 channels
on their way out
and
the
4
door.
public access channels?
We have a
But the
man
same
standing right
entity
there who
controls
hasn't
the
said
content
one
of
word,
the
and I can
350
look in
channels.
his face and tell
Controls
you
the
he has
4
quite a
public
bit to
access
They don't
say.
control the for public access. They have to react as a
In
matter of...
every
If a
single
person goes
franchise
into a
except in
contract,
that they do.
if the person goes into, Time Warner goes into a negotiation on a contract to support the public access facility in Portland, they're not doing it because they want to, they're doing it because it's accepted law. It's like you don't go into court only because you want
Not
to.
accepted law.
It is. It's
And to
accepted
pay
within the
for it-
system, unless you're gonna, by your absolute standards, gonna let it
I
clobber
just
on
gave you
the,
the answer.
on the,
And in every single
show.
cable franchise except Manhattan, there is a rider in the provision
Oh, well,
that
that's-
says the cable company shall control the content of public access.
That's
I'm
not
talking
true.
about 2,000
They don't
cases.
care about the content of public access. They just want to get over the contract obligation to pay a percentage of their income to set up this thing so those people can.
I have been directly challenged in many cities by these entities, and you say they don't
We
exist.
need to start doing
No, they don't care about
some kind of parliament. We need to start doing law to say, shut up, this is what we're going to do. This is the next point on the agenda.
Set
That's what
up
we
by
need
the
to do.
government
We
of the
do, in
city
fact,
that
need
controls the content of public
right.
That's
access. In
idiosyncratic.
every single city.
Okay, well, listen, we
have
got
to-
some members here.
We have to be
Hush up,
relevant.
all you non-committee members. You're not a committee member.
I'm not
You're
a
not
member.
a
I'm
committee
a
member.
producer.
John, you have to come here
We have no right to
because this
speak.
responsible committee, we want to set up some rules of operation. But we have to decide, when are we going to have our next meeting?
I mean, I could tell stories too.
Yeah, right.
I could tell the story of several programs that were thrown off
Yeah.
the air by the listeners. Remember the doctor from Florida who was a Nazi?
Amazingly,
Remember, he used to talk to the audience with a portrait of Adolf Hitler behind him, telling us, telling the Manhattan audience,
thank you.
the Jews and
Thank
blacks
you.
were
Yeah.
totally inferior, and every culture the Jews were ever part
Funny you
of
mentioned
went down the
that.
Jews.
Funny you mentioned
So the
that.
listeners got rid of it. Then we had Maya Cohen's group, remember? Maya Cohen's group was thrown out off too.
And
Because
who
he
was
was
he fighting against?
outwardly
Who developed that
racist,
system?
racist, continually insulting
And
people of
Edison
color
sabotaged it.
and other minorities. So that was thrown
He
out.
died too
Now
much.
George was part of Channel J, which is a different story, sort of a different story.
Okay, let me take care of one little thing.
You know,
It's
he
amazing.
wasn't part of the mainstream public.
I wish I was aggressive like you, Harold.
Oh, well.
Okay, I was outraged because
Takes
I
a while,
like
you know,
Michael,
and
Steve, and George, and Robin.
I'm
Ray.
frustrated.
Yeah, if I had a couple shots of Jack Daniels or something.
That would help, yeah.
Okay, young fella?
Okay, everybody, please, can we get a
Well,
little
it's the
attention
same
here?
issue.
Can we have a
It's a
little
different
attention and not just anarchy?
Who's the guy that was sitting right next to me?
Back there.
Just as What's his name?
Okay, you're not involved in this, but we
No.
No, you know. Okay, everybody.
We have a Nazi doctor.
They don't want to. What we have to decide, gentlemen, Mr. Reverend, you, Carl, unless you want to get off the committee, I mean, you can resign or whatever. And Josh?
Jews.
Oh, well, we can't get their attention.
Josh is in love.
Now, you know what his
He's
company
talking.
is, don't you? Because it still is going.
Okay, Josh? Josh Hardy here.
You know, we should have a list of all the people who are on this committee.
Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
With our emails
Yeah,
of
now there's where,
you know.
two blocks.
Well, okay, listen, John, he's not interested, we'll do it. Okay, well, all we have to do is decide, when are we gonna have the next, general meeting for ACAP? It could be either, gentlemen, we're gonna have one for the committee, whoever wants to still stay aboard and everything, and there'll be other people. And one will be, the general meeting could be, it looks like it has to be the 19th of May. It's the third Monday in May, 19th of May, because the 26th is Memorial Day, that's no
7
good.
p.m.
Yeah, it'd be 7 p.m. on the 19th of May for the general meeting, if we can get people to come here and everything, okay? 19th of May, general meeting.
Okay? And
Okay, now the committee meeting, for those who can stand, you still stay with it and everything? And there'll be other people, anybody else want to become a committee member? No. Okay, how about I propose, we do it on a Wednesday, is Wednesday okay for you guys? Wednesday's
But
okay?
who gets very jealous?
Okay, how about the 14th of May?
Here's the real lesson coming up in your great.
David?
Here's Steinmetz.
That's a Wednesday, you don't have your calendar. Well, let's propose the, Josh, you got it? The 14th of May for the committee meeting.
14th, 19th.
And we'll try and, that's a Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Wednesday, 7 o'clock, okay? Okay, and maybe we can get this together. I would consider if you do this, I'll consider that. And, okay, committee.
And so what he did to Tesla was he took all his patents and he said, well, I can't pay you. because
Okay.
there's a problem."
Now,
Okay, that's a fucking problem.
you had something to say. You wanted to say something.
So
You
he
know.
sabotaged Tesla.
You need a format to reach the public. I think
Shut him away
Yeah.
in New York
I think that
hotel, hoping-
the things I write about and the things I draw about are a good way to reach the public. I promote working for the civil service.
Uh-huh.
And I would think interviewing people like this or manipulating the print,
Yeah.
doing like a soft core Howard Stern, the way he used to rip up the news, would be a good format to.
Never do that.
Howard Stern, what's the name's going to be working with him, I guess, you know, maybe.
Yeah, we're trying
We should come
to.
tonight.
No, we're trying to get working with Sirius and having a show on there.
Yeah, well, that would be good. But that's not public access.
That's not public
No,
access,
it's
no.
public access.
How many channels does Sirius have?
I don't know.
I'm the wrong person to ask. I watch as little entertainment as possible.
Okay, I think I'm going to turn off the machine now. So we'll call that.
When's the next meeting?
We had Thomas Brown, we had John Steinmetz, we had Ugly George, who's not ugly, we had Carl Pearson, we had Josh Belushi, we had Rose Berry, Rosalind Grable,
And Al-Qaeda.
Al Duffy.
One of the things that I think would be helpful is establishing
Which you stole